with us. As you're aware, this session will run over the next 60 minutes, and that's inclusive of any Q&A that you have. So whilst you are muted on today's event, please do get involved in the chat function. Any questions that you have, just ask them in there. I'll be moderating that chat throughout. Also, any feedback or comments that you have, feel free to drop them into the chat as well. As I mentioned, the session is being recorded, so it will be available to watch on demand, and that will be on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. I'll share the link in the chat with you as well, so you have access to that too. So I just want to quickly go through our code of conduct before we get started. Hopefully my slide will show. So this is our Microsoft Reactor code of conduct, and it's really just a reminder to everyone who is joining us today to be aware of one another, respectful and friendly throughout. It is an inclusive environment at all of the events that we run, so just to be understanding of any differences as well that we might see through the chat or any of the Q&A too. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Laura. Laura is a really proactive MVP. We're delighted to be welcoming her back today, and great guest at the Microsoft Reactor as well. So Laura, I'll hand over you to get us started today.
Thank you, Emma. I am just convincing Teams that Teams is updated again. I am just trying to work out which is screen 1 and which is screen 2, but let's see if you get the right screen. I'm really hoping that's going to give you. I'm hoping you can see my slide. Nope.
It's back now.
It's up. See, didn't even do anything. Right. Okay. I've been playing around with data for a very long time. I remember Excel version 4. I think was the earliest one I worked with seriously. And I've been working with Excel and data, and citizen data engineers is probably the group that I've been working throughout my career. I am active on Twitter at LauraGB. I have a blog, hatfulofdata.blog. I also have a YouTube channel. And I'm also an MVP, which means I do lots of talking, basically. That's my definition of an MVP anyway. So I don't have a huge number of slides today. I have basically demo today, which is talking you through doing a paginated report. So I'm really hoping I've got a blank paginated report to show you. So I'm going to talk you through building a paginated report. And my window's in the wrong place. My apologies today. I am not totally organized on my things. I had to do some rebuilding briefly before this session. So paginated reports. Okay, paginated reports are what's known as the pixel perfect reports. They are the reports that were designed to print. They are the reports that were designed to put into a PDF and all those kinds of things, unlike a Power BI report, which is not designed to print. Okay. Please do ask questions in the chat window. That'd be great. And I will answer. I will pause at various points to see if anybody's got any questions. And I will try and answer them as best as I can. Okay. I have had to learn paginated reports for various clients, and I realized that there was very little introduction stuff out there, which is why I put together what I've put together. Okay, but I am not an I have not come from the SSRS background, which is where an awful lot of paginated reports people have come from. So I haven't got that background. But if you've got questions regarding to how they relate, please do put them through. I will find you the answers. Okay. So let's move straight on to a demo, and let's move into paginated reports. I'm just going to press cancel on all these things because, right, and I'm just going to delete. So my apologies, I am not starting with a completely blank report. Okay, I am starting, and this is how we're now in the state that I would normally start my reports, and this is a report template. So what I have done in this report template is I've set up things like my page width is exactly right. Okay, so this is the width of my page. It's 18 centimeters, and that allows for margins, and it'll fit on a British A4. Okay, if I understand rightly, A4 is a bit of a dubious size out there. So if you look, I've got a page size down here in the bottom right here, 21 centimeters wide. So that gives me 18 centimeters. That gives me 1.5 centimeters margin. Okay, so all of that's been calculated, and all of that I've set up. It's boring to set up. You should only ever have to do it once. And I have on my YouTube channel, which I'll put a link to in the chat in a moment. I have a 12 days of paginated reports, and the very first video, which came out on Christmas Day, hence the 12 days, is creating this template. Okay, and it's a 5-minute video, so it's not long to go through, but it's worth doing to make sure it matches everything you want in your business, that you've got color lines and things and any images you want, etc., etc. So we've got our page set up. The next thing we want to set up is we want to set up a data source. Okay, so down here on the left hand side in the report, in this pane on the left, if I right click on data sources, there are two types of connections they offer you there. One is the Power BI dataset connection, which allows you to connect up to a Power BI dataset, which is one of the ways of coming in here. And if that's what you're interested in, there are a number of videos out there, sessions I've done that have been recorded, entitled Brilliant Report, Can I Print It? Okay, today what we're going to look at is connecting straight to a data source. But the only difference is really the data connections. So if I go to add a data source, and I'm going to go for a SQL Server database, and we're going to build our connection string. And it's going to ask me for my server name, which I'm just going to quickly fetch off another window. By the way, this server name, don't get too excited about it being shown up, because it gets emptied on a regular basis. So I don't really have that much problem with it being seen. And then I put in my username, and I've got a password, and connect to a database. Are you going to give them to me? Test connection. That's what I remember. Test the connection first, because then you have a chance, and then the databases come up. Okay, so then I'm going to go for plant sales, and we're going to click OK. And we're then going to go from here, and we're going to click OK into there. Oh no, no, we're not. No, we're not. Let's name it, shall we? Because you can have more than one connections, it's worth naming it and getting in the habit of naming things. You can't put a space, by the way, in that name. So there we are. I've got my data source. Now I'm going to go for a data set. We're going to go for a really simple one to begin with. Okay, so I'm going to go and add a data set. And let's put this in for, let's just list our plants that we're going to sell. Okay, so I've put in a name, I've picked my data source, And then I'm going to go to Query Designer. And this is the first time that I've connected up with regards to this report. So it just does a couple of quick credential checks as we go. And here we are. Here are my tables, and here are my views. Okay, so we're just going to go for this one here, and I'm going to go for, let's just go for I'm in this one. There are different places where you drag, and there's other places where you can't drag. So here we are. I've got an ID, plant name, and a base price. We're going to click OK. And there you are. It's got a select statement. So that select statement you could have typed in by hand. Okay, there's an FX button there that allows you to go and type it in by hand. No problem at all. You could type straight into that box. But if you're not an SQL writer, the Query Designer is there for you. And then we click OK. So any questions? Wait a minute, let me put my Teams window somewhere that I can actually see it. That'd be novel, wouldn't it? Any questions? I'm just going to drag that down here. Okay, my apologies. I realize I have jumped in something. So going back to, it looks exactly right, Report Builder. It is Report Builder. That's what Paginated Reports are built in. Okay, so where is Power BI so far? I totally agree. It doesn't look anything like Power BI. Okay, once I produce a report, I will show you how Power BI gets involved. Okay, so let's go back into our report. So yes, Report Builder is the tool for using for creating the creating paginated reports, and paginated reports get published to the Power BI service. Okay, so they get published to a workspace, and that's their connection with Power BI. The other connection, which is coming hopefully in the next couple of months, is that Power BI reports will have a paginated report visual. So you'll be able to embed these inside your Power BI report. Okay. So we've created our data source. We've got our data set. So I'm now going to do a really simple little table on this page just to show our plants, and then we're going to publish it. Okay, just so we can see those parts coming up. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to a table and go for Table Wizard. We've only got one data set, so let's pick that. And then I'm going to click Next. And I'm going to pick all three of those fields, and I'm just going to put them into the values here. And there's no duplicates in here, so they should all come up. The sum doesn't matter. And I'm not doing any grouping or grand totaling. And there we are, there's our table, but it's overwriting something else. It's in the way of something else. Now I could drag it and move it. Another way to do it, if you're wanting to be that pixel perfect, is over here on the right hand side. There is location. So in the left, I can put 0. And I'm going to put to the top. I have kept to the measurements that I know easy. So the top is my little banner at the top there is 1.5 centimeters tall. So I'm going to put my table to start at 1.5. Okay. And so there we are. I've got my report there. I'm going to guess my plant name is not big enough. So I'm just going to make that column a little wider. And let's go and have a look at a preview. Okay, so there's a run button, which allows you to run the report. And that's weird, it's got no data. Let's just try print layout for a second. There we are, now I've got some data. So I've got data there. It's given it in the order that's in the database, which happens to be the ID number. Okay, I've got a price, but it hasn't got any pounds or anything on it. And I've got my labels at the top here are all right aligned, which is fine for my plant ID. Maybe I could rename that to something else. But my plant name needs to be left aligned. Okay, so let's just go and do that quick tick. And also, I haven't got a name here at the top. Okay, so let's get back into design mode. Thank you, Thomas, for doing my question answering. That's great. And so the things we noticed there was that plant name there, okay, needs to be left aligned. So I can click in there, and if you look, we've got a standard Microsoft formatting. So we've got a left aligned button there. Okay, now my base price, if I click onto there and then do a right click, there's a placeholder properties. So I can click into there, and there are a number of things in here, but I can go for number, and I'm going to say it's currency. And it knows I'm in the UK, by the way, which is why it's giving me British formatting and centimeters, etc. I've set that up to be as I want it to be set up. If you're in the States or elsewhere in the world, it will probably come up with your local currency. Well, it should do. And then we click OK. And then let's have a quick look at a run again. So there we are. We've got our list of products. Okay. We're going to have a look at a couple of things in a minute after we've published it. But if we look, we've got 6 pages. I mean, there's 100 of these things, but actually, no, there's 200 of these things I had forgotten. Okay. So you might turn around and say that actually you're going to change some margins on here to make that, because actually that bottom margin looks a bit big, but I'm not going to do that now. But you could do that to kind of make your report a bit smaller, etc. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about saving. Okay, so if I do a save as, because we were in the template, so I'm going to do a save as, and I'm just going to do a quick save as, and I'm going to call it Reactor Plants Plant List. That's a better name. Okay, even that doesn't give me a name on my report there, but if I go back into design mode for a second, you'll see there's a publish button. By the way, if you haven't got a publish button in your version of Report Builder, go and update your Report Builder. It got added a couple of months ago. But if not, there's a file save as, and you can save as to the service. Okay, so I'm going to put it into LoRaGB demo, and let's call it Plant List. And let's click save. So now let's go and open up a window that is into the right. Let me just make sure I've got a window open in the right place. The right tenancy is really my problem. And of course it opened up in the wrong place, on the wrong window. There's buttons up here which I really shouldn't be pressing, but hey. let's just put a password in. Not now, go away. Yeah, let's stay signed in. Just let that page load up. So the advantage of paginated reports, apart from let's hope that's plant list. There we are. So if we look here, if you've got a normal issues report, a report here, so I've got the issues report there, it's got data sets, and that's what you expect. But a paginated report doesn't have a data set. So when a paginated report runs, so let's go and run it. Okay, it goes and queries the database now. Ooh. That I was not expecting. That I was not expecting at all. Let's go and wow. Let me just see what that error says again, and let's see if we can get it to on your management page. My apologies. That is not what I expected at all. So let's just go and see if I can. I don't think it's in there. Plant list. How weird. So why has that not worked? Why has that not worked? I do not know why that's not worked. So what I am going to do is I am going to I've got ones in there as well. I'm trying to work out what to do. While I'm thinking about that, I am just going to quickly create a new workspace and see if publishing it to a new workspace will fix the issue. So let's just quickly try publishing it again. See that makes me that there's something going wrong there, because normally it comes up with a report here. I don't think this report's going to open. No. Okay, So it's having an issue with connecting to the reports. I don't think it's anything that I've done. Maybe there's something going, maybe. So when you open a report, I'm just going to go and open one of my older reports. I haven't got one to this one here. I'm going to go to data relay that will show you a report. And then we'll go back into the service. We'll go back into Report Builder. So here's in Report Builder, you get a version of the report. You can see it in page view. Okay. You can sort it by whatever column you want here. So in this one, it's sorted by reported date, and you can also make it, and you can see that we get our report name at the top there, and we also get a page number down the bottom. And if I go onto my second page, I've got titles to my columns here. So there's some of the things we're going to have a quick look at doing in the report build. I have no idea why I can't connect to that data, and my apologies that that part of the demo isn't working. But let's switch back into Reports Builder. And inside Report Builder here, so if we go and look at this report, okay, if I go and do my run, there I have my titles. But if I go on to and so I want to maybe sort by the plant name. Okay, so that's one thing we can do. And then the other thing, if I look on my page 2, I don't have titles. So that's what we're going to have a look at next, are some titles. And then maybe we're also going to have a look at a slightly different version of the list, and let's filter by something. So let's go for the plants that are less than £20. So let's go for the ones you want to promote in a certain way, or the ones that are over a certain amount. We'll look at different ways of doing that. So let's go back into the design. And what we're going to do first is let's firstly have a look at sorting. Okay, so there's a number of places where we could sort. One of the places we could sort is in the table, or we could sort in the data set. So I'm going to show you sorting. I'm going to show you sorting in the table, and then afterwards when we do our filtering, we'll do our filtering at the data set. So they can always be done at different levels. So if we go to our table here, okay, and I've got 2 panels down the bottom here, which I normally have open. If they're not open for you, you can open them by clicking on grouping. Okay, so if I untick that, there they are, they've gone, and there you go, they come back. And on the details section here, if I drop that down, I can go to group properties. And in here, I can do various things. So I'm going to go for sorting, and I'm going to click and add, and let's sort by plant name. Now, if there's any possibility of a duplicate in there, you could also put in another sort by, and you could say, let's go for the price. So I've got an A to Z or a Z to A. Okay, so even if I'd put a date column in there, it still would say A to Z as an indication of the kind of sorting, ascending or descending. So let's click OK on there. So now if we just do a very quick run. There you are. We've got our plants in alphabetical order. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to move on to having a look at putting in those titles on the next page. So let's go back into design mode. And this one is not obvious. Okay, that one was reasonably obvious. This one, what you do is on the right hand side of this grouping pane down the bottom here, we click on there and we go to advanced mode. And there are these things called statics that appear. Now, this one at the top here is referring to that top row, okay? And when I have that static selected, over on the right-hand side here, it's called Tablix member, there are repeat on new page, and you'll see it says false. And if you change that to say true, okay. Now when I do run, you can see there's my page 1 and there's my page 2, and look, I've got my parts that have come across there. Okay, so let's go back into design. And let's do one more thing before we move on to a different example. So what we're going to do on this is we're going to put in a filter. So I'm going to go into my plants and I'm going to do a right there, and I'm going to put in my dataset properties. Now I could put my where clause into here for those of us that do SQL. You could put it into there, which would then pass it back to the database. Okay. Another way of doing it, especially if you're working with a data set that you can't quite write a query like that, such as a Power BI data set, okay, into here, I'm going to click on adding a filter, and it'll write it for you. Okay, so I can put into here base price is less than or equal to, let's put in £20. And click OK. And now when I run it, oh, cannot compare systems at a small system double. Okay, let's go back to design, and let's go and have a look at that filter again. Let's see if that just solves the problem. It really isn't going to play. Isn't my day today. My apologies, guys. System decimal, system double. Okay. So let's take off that filter. And let's go to the query and let's try to put it in here. So this is another way of writing it, is by putting it in as a SQL statement. Okay. Now the other thing here that I would go with, there we go. Okay, so it's behaved. So we can do it. But actually, writing SQL and writing those filters, making anything complicated, okay, I highly recommend you make friends with your DBA. Okay. So that actually, if you need queries written, you have the opportunity to get them to write it the best way possible. Okay. So I know behind here, I have all the details of sales. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do another report. So what I'm going to make it nice and quick. We're going to go into design. Okay, so I'm going to go to file, save as, and let's just call that, and we're gonna have a new version of it, and we're gonna call it plant sales. Okay. And I'm just going to get rid of that table for a second. And I'm going to bring in a new data set. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put in my orders. Okay. And I am going to go for plant sales. I'm going to go to Query Designer. Now, there we are. I have my order items, my orders, my plants, and etc. I have the 4 tables that if I was in Power BI, I would quite happily drag in, put in relationships, and do all those things. And I would come up with those, and they would be fine. Okay. In here, it's a little bit more complicated. You've got to build your relationships and put in unless it's been built nicely for you, and then you can do some auto detecting. But you've got to go and build those relationships. Okay. It's not quite drag and droppy as Power BI is. So the DBA has gone and built a query of order totals. So I can come in here and I can pick all those fields so that they're all in there, and we can click OK. And we can click OK again. And I can bring in a table. And let's go and move it again. Now the left is 0. And the top back to 1.5 again. And let's just go and have a quick look. So a couple of things we've got in here. We've got too many decimal places on our order total. Obviously, some calculations have gone on there, and probably including some discounts. So we need to do some things there. And our dates, we've got the same problem. And our width here, we've got the same problem. We've got a width problem, which we've had before. So I can bring into here. Now, the one thing to be really careful of is if I had made that column a little bit wider, okay, it would have gone over there, and then I'd end up with a blank page for those things there. So actually do make sure that you've got something to reference it to, and that your page is kept to the width that you've calculated, so that I know full well that I've got my 1.5 margins, and it all adds up to 21 centimeters, and I know that works for my pages. So if we've made the company wider. Do you know what? We can pick a whole row, and we can make them all left aligned if that works. Okay. And these 2 dates. So we've also got, we also, these at the top here are literally just text fields. So I can come here. And kind of the hint that hits here, if it's in square brackets, it's a field name. Or if it looks like a function, don't go editing it unless you know what you're doing. And that is our order date, and that actually is our delivery date. So, and let's go on to that order date. and do a right click again, and let's go into placeholder properties. So we can then come in to here, and we're going to go for a number, and I can go for a version of the date, obviously American, British, etc. formats you've got to work out. Although I have to admit, if I can get away with it, I go for an ISO standard. So then if we go and we run that one, okay, there we are. We've got our names of our companies and our order dates and delivery dates, and we haven't sorted out the money there. So let me just quickly go and sort out that one. Okay, so there we are. We've got all of ours. We haven't put titles in there, but I'm not going to do that for a second because I'm gonna talk about doing something else for a sec. So if we've got in here, and I think I've got enough time. I think I've got enough time to do this last little demo. If you're wanting to find order dates, orders that on a particular day, okay, you want to be able to run this report. As with a filter. Okay, so let's say on the 15th, we wanted the 15th of the 20th, 2019. We want to see what orders we've got on that date. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back into design. And I'm going to add a parameter in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into orders and dataset properties. And we're going to go into our query designer. And we can do an applied filter here. So I'm going to add a filter. And we're going to put in the order date is, and I'm not going to put a value in. I'm going to tick and say it's a parameter. And then we're going to click OK. So there we are. We can see it's added in a where clause and it's put an at order date in there. And we can click OK. Now, the other thing that's done also is it's added in a parameter here. So we've got a parameter there. So now when I run the report, it asks me for a date. Okay. And I think we had the 15th of the 10th, 2019. And then over here on the right, there's a view report button. And there we are. We've got the ones which are due, which were ordered on that date and what their delivery date was. Okay, so we can add in parameters into our part there. But if we look there, it says order date. That's not particularly a nice label. We might want that to say something slightly different. So if we go back into design, and I go onto my parameter and I do a right click and I go to parameter properties. There's a prompt field. Okay, so what I can go into here is I can I can even put in a select order date. And let's click OK. And now when we run it, let's go for a different date. Let's go for the 20th of, I have no idea if there's any on this date, but hey, let's try it. And there we are. We've got our 2 orders on that date. Okay. So that's our report. We're adding in a parameter, and you can get more complicated on your parameters. You can have cascading ones so that you can have ones which are particular kind of client types or order type, etc., etc., and it could filter down into the other drop downs. That can all work. Okay. And you could also have, if you wanted to drop down as a selector there, you could have it that you've got another database that feeds that drop down to what's in there. Okay, so you only get relevant values in that drop down. So that is the very, very basics of setting up a tabular report. Okay, and it's very different to Power BI. Okay, but it does allow you to put it in the same places and do the things. So and there is some great videos out there to support you. GynaCube recently came out with one which was all about putting a link in a Power BI report that could then link to a paginated report to give you the to open up for a user. You could also subscribe to Power BI to paginated reports, and you can also have Power Automate sent out to your paginated reports. Now, this unfortunately all needs premium. Okay, but premium per user is now a lot more affordable for most companies to be able to have some users with premium per user, and they can then put those paginated reports in there, and then you can subscribe somebody to that report, a printed out PDF that they could get daily or whatever they need. They don't have to have the premium per user license. So there's lots of resources that are appearing. Lots of us people are creating content out there, and let me just show you. Let me just open up a. So I put together. Here's my blog site. I put together a paginated report resources. And so here is access to downloading the software, going through my 12 days. Now, paginated reports in a day is a brilliant resource from Microsoft. They give you videos and resources and access to a database that will give you data, etc., and we'll walk you through it. Doing it in a day, I think it's a bit of a push, because it's quite a lot of content. It took me a couple of days to go through it originally, but it's there, and it's great. It's got Chris Finlan and another presenter whose name has completely gone out of my head. Then there is one of my favorite ones. One of my favorite blogs is Next Step BI, and Next Step BI has done some very pretty things with paginated reports. He's also talked about automated report building, reports and things in there, but actually this is the part which is really quite nice. A grade card. So he's given it ideas. He gets you to build a Power BI report and then connect to it. And then he's also put in some other things that people get asked for. Although I have to put this one is this spiral is perhaps a little random. This one here I have picked up and used almost exactly the same as he's used it there for a client, for actually showing warehouse space. We used it for almost identical to what it's being used for there. Okay. So it's a reasonably new blog, but it's from somebody of the Power BI team inside Microsoft, and that's always a good thing. And Paul Turley is great at these things, and he has paginated report recipes and other paginated things. Paul definitely comes from the background of understanding SSRS and a background in there, and he has some great articles in how to do paginated reports. So, do we have any questions? I can't see any there.
I haven't seen any questions come through, Laura. I've been keeping an eye, but we do have a few minutes left still, so if there are any questions, do feel free to get them through.
Who here has used paginated reports? Do you want to put some answers in chat, guys? Wow, we've got the quiet group today. We've definitely got the quiet group today, Emma.
We must say.
Yeah, Robert, I understand that, but not paying for Power BI Premium. It's a lot. The Power BI Premium is a large bill, but actually, premium per user is $20 a month, or $10 a month if you already have Pro. Okay. So yeah, it's always a hard ask for more licensing. I totally agree, and they've got to have a reason for wanting it. Go and have a look at what Premium gives you. Is my advice. And by the way, I don't work for Microsoft, but go and have a look at some of and see if any of them fit with what your company wants to be able to do. One of the things that I've got from one of the things that's quite often a changer for some companies is if you've got some business critical reports. A really good one is lifecycle management. They've got some really nice, easy features that make it a lot easier and more appealing in look, etc., to do all those things, but only comes with premium per user. Okay, or premium capacity. Now I realize a 5K a bill month is a large ask for a company, but taking a pro license from $10 a month to $20 a month is usually a little easier to swallow. But no, it's got some ideas out there, and so have a look, see what's there. But if you're already using SSRS, you probably can't justify. It's harder to justify what features they're getting. But I think they will come. I think I'm really hoping that paginated reports are going to continue to get some updates and some more love. And also, when Power BI, it was mentioned at MBAS that the paginated report visual inside Power BI. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to take, say, maybe a table that's got a long scroll bar on it. You will be able to take that out and put in a paginated report, which you can then go from. So if I switch back over to paginated reports in service here, what I can do is when I go to export, there are all the ways that I can export it. Okay, and there are some really interesting ways there, from CSV to giving an extract of data to getting it as a PDF or a Word document. Paginated report be a Power BI visual. I am going to guess that the visual will embed a paginated report. I am going to guess that that paginated report needs to be hosted in a premium workspace. So either you have to have the premium per user license, or you have to have access to a premium capacity, and they're not going to be changing licensing for paginated reports for the visual. I'm hoping that answers your question, Conrad. I don't have the details of that. They were not announced, but I am not expecting the licensing to change for paginated. So just to give you guys the links of what we've done there, I'm just going to take that and put that into chat, or maybe not. Oh, possibly twice. My apologies. That might be a duff. I think I've just typed that in twice. There you are. That's a single version of it, so that should work. And that will give you links. And if you come across any other resources that you think should be on there, please do reach out to me, Laura GB, on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and we'll go from there. And there's lots of other people there's a lady called Sue Bays who's also coming up with some resources, which I need to add to this page as well. So this page will get updated. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, guys, and my apologies that my demo of actually publishing the report didn't work. I will have to find out why that's happened.
No problem, Laura. It was great to have you. And thank you so much for another great session. I guess these things can happen with live demos, which is part of it, so nothing to worry about. But thank you everyone for attending, and really hope we see you back again soon at another Reactor event. I did just drop a survey link in there at the end. Would really appreciate any feedback that you have from today's event too, before you go. But otherwise, enjoy your evening or rest of your day, and see you soon.
Take care, guys.